Good afternoon. My name is Toya. Today's Sunday, the 5th of October. The time is now 3:45. I'm here with Stanley. And could you please introduce yourself, please, and tell me where you're from?
My name is Stanley George Brown, and I was born in Jamaica, Kingston, Jamaica, in 1950. I'm 75 years of age in October the 7th.
When did you come to the UK?
I came to the UK just after the Windrush in about the Windrush was 1947, about 53, 54 I came over to the UK.
So you came over within the time of the Windrush, because there was a wide window between 43.
Well,
It started.
We didn't come with the Windrush.
No, what I'm saying is a lot of people, they came over during the Windrush period.
Yeah.
So it started between the 40s and went up to the 60s.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay.
So when you came here, what did you do? Did you go to school?
Well, to start off with, I don't know who my parents are, because my mother found me in the bush in Jamaica. Well, not my mother. I call her Mrs. Brown, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, I call them, because they're the one that adopted me.
Okay.
But she found me in the bush in Jamaica.
Okay.
And my dad, well, Mr. Brown came over here in the British Air Force, because Jamaica was under British rule then.
Yes.
And he came in the British Air Force, him and Mrs. Brown. I called them Mr. and Mrs. Brown because they're not my real parents.
Okay, that's fine.
And he bought a house in Forest Gate, 13 Forest Road, number 13. And he got it cheap because the English didn't want to buy it, because number 13, they're superstitious. So he got a 5-bedroom semi-detached house. Got it very cheap. Anyway, I've got an elder sister, who's a year older than me, and I don't know how Mrs. Brown got my date of birth. She must have got it from the time she found me, 7th of October 1950.
Okay.
And Mr. Brown sent for me and my mother, me and my sister, and my stepmother, and my grandmother to bring me over into the UK.
Okay.
And we lived in number 13 Forest Road, Forest Gate, London E7. I went to school in Forest Gate. My parents weren't religious, but they sent us to Sunday school every Sunday, which is just around the corner. We went to Sunday school every Sunday. And I went to Forest Gate School. I liked school. I didn't like being at home, because my dad, well, Mr. Brown, he treated me very roughly. I didn't understand why until when he told me one day that Mrs. Brown found me in the bush in Jamaica, and I understood why he didn't really like me that much. And then I had another brother, Tony, is younger than me, and I had 2 sisters, three sisters, Beverly, Monica, and Hyacinth. There's 5 of us living in the house. And I went to school. I liked school, but I developed, the way my dad treated me, everything that went bad was my fault, and I got the punishment for it, for everything. He didn't like me at all. He really treated me roughly. And one day when I was about 7 years of age, he said to me, because when we used to do something bad, he used to beat us with a leather strap. He said to me one day, now, when I was about 7 years of age, he said, next time you mess up, it won't be the strap, it'll be my fist. And I was afraid of him. I grew up very afraid of him. I feared for my life sometimes when he used to beat me. And he used to work on the house. And every time he used to keep me up until 10:30 at night, working with him. And my mum used to have to call to him and tell him to let me go to go out to get to school in the morning. And I had to sleep at the back of the school. I was sad about the school. I had to sleep because I was so tired. I couldn't keep my eyes open. Anyway, one day, whilst I was at school, when I was at school, my sister and I were the only black person in the whole school. There wasn't another black person around. We had the only 2 black people in the school. And one day, one of the white girls said to me, "Can you show me your towel?" Because she thought I had a towel. And I said, I didn't understand what she's talking about, but went home and I told my mum, and she laughed. But they thought I had a towel because they'd never seen a black person before.
Okay.
And anyway, I never had. I brought a ball to school, a football. And one day I was playing football, and one of the guys took my football and deliberately kicked it over next door into a cemetery. And I gave him one punch in the side of his ear, and I started crying. I said, "Go and get my ball," because I wasn't going to jump over into the cemetery. I was afraid of things like that. And he jumped over, and he got my ball, and then all of a sudden everybody started giving me sweets and making friends with me. I couldn't understand why, but I understood after a little while he was a school bully. And I hit him with one punch and he started crying, so that I was the master.
So you defeat the bully?
Yeah, I defeated the bully, and I didn't even know, and they all made friends with me, you know. So anyway, when I went to the secondary school, there was 2 or 3 black girls and a couple of black guys. That was about all, and there's some Jewish people. Anyway, what happened was, I found out afterwards, every time I went home and put my key in the door, I was nervous and very afraid, because I didn't know what Mr. Brown was going to do, because he's always on to me all the time, hard, very hard, harshly. And when I was out in the school, I was life and soul of the party. I had the best looking girlfriend in the school. I was head of the football team. I was the captain of the football team. And so, but what I didn't realise it at the time, but after a while, after years gone by, I realised I had a dual personality syndrome. When I went home, I was shy and wouldn't talk to anybody and nervous. When I was out, I was life and soul of the party. So I had that dual personality syndrome. I didn't realise until years later in my life, I realised I had that. Anyway, there was a guy at school. I went out one day and I met him. This is in the secondary school. This wasn't the same as the first school, the secondary school. And I met him on the road and he was crying, sobbing. I said, why are you sobbing? He said, some of the people that left the school, because this is the East End, you know, these people are hard guys. They're not easy to get on with. He said, some of the people that left the school confronted him and said, who was the best fighter in the school? And he said, I was, because most of the guys were frightened. I was strong. I was really strong and tough. And so they said, well, if you don't beat him, we're going to come and beat you and beat him as well. So, and he was crying. So I said, when did you see them? He said, not too long ago. They're going to come back. So I said, well, I'll tell you what you do. Tell them that when you met me and you beat me up and you're the best fighter in the school, just make out. So that you won't get a beating and I won't get a beating. And that's what we did. And they came and asked him, they asked me, who's the best fighter? So I said, his name was Jim Story. I said, his name's Jim Story. Jim Story beat me up the other day. So they said, oh, okay. So none of us got beaten from them. Anyway, after that, when I was 15 years of age, my dad bought a house, land in Jamaica. He bought a bit of land in Jamaica and he built a house on it. And the rest of all of my family was going to move over there. And he said to me, do you want to come with me? And I said no, and he didn't even buy me a ticket because he knew I wasn't going to go. He didn't want me there. And he left me with my stepbrother. My stepbrother had a room in the house. Which he was rented out. So he left me with him. He left him some money to look after me, and they all went to Jamaica. And my stepbrother, he was my stepbrother, on my dad's side, on Mr. Brown's side, and not Mrs. Brown's side. Anyway, he disappeared, and the landlord threw me out on the street. I was 15 years of age. I was homeless from the age of 15. I lived on the streets, and I got in trouble with the police, and they sent me to this home, and then they found my elder sister stayed here. My elder sister, she stayed here. She never went with them, and she had a room in camp in Lewisham. And they found her and they put me under her charge. And I went to stay and live with her. No, I was living with her. I got a job as in a laundrette, and I was working there. I was working there for a while, and I got fed up with it. And I got a job in a car factory, and I was working there for a little while. And then all of a sudden, my mother and my two sisters turned up at the door. And I said, what's going on? They'd come all the way from Jamaica. They had nowhere to stay, and they knew the address, and my sister must have given them my sister went into hospital because she had a baby, and I was sitting there on my own, and they was going to put me in the home because she wasn't looking after me anymore. My mother turned up with my two sisters, and we stayed in the one room until my mother got a flat in Campbell Green. And then we all moved there, and I got a job in a hotel washing glasses because it's near the West End. Anyway, then my dad came over with my younger brother, and he bought a house in East Ham, and we all moved there. We all moved to East Ham. But I knew I wasn't going to get on with him because I never got on with him at all. He hated me. He hated the very sight of me. Anyway, I got a job as a trainee chef in that next door to the BBC, and I was working there as a trainee chef, and I was bringing home £7 a week, and he told my mother to take £5 a week from me. I didn't even have enough fare to get back to work. I worked in the West End, but he took £5 a week from me. Because one thing about Mr. Brown, he loved money. Anyway, one day it was winter time and I had a hole in my shoes, so I said, "Oh, I better buy a pair of shoes." I bought a pair of shoes, and I came home and I said, Mum, I can't give you the £5 this week because I have to buy a pair of shoes. She told Mr. Brown, and Mr. Brown showed me the door. He said, go out there and see if you can live out there without paying your way. And he threw me out on the street. And he said, don't even get your belongings. So he threw me out on the street. It was winter time. And I waited at the end of the road all night, shivering. And I saw him go to work. And I saw my mum go to work. And I went back into the house to get my belongings mainly. But I went into their room and he had a coat hanging up behind the door. And I put my hand inside and I took out about 5 wage packets unopened. Well, I've lost my job now, so I didn't have no money. So I took it. To cut a long story short, he called the police on me, and the police caught up with me. And I went to young offenders prison for doing PE, hard PE, next door to a big prison. Detention centre it's called, and I went in there, and they took me there in a dog's van, all the way there. They took me, there were 2 dog at the side there, and they put me inside there, and drove me all the way there. Anyway, I did hard PE there. You had to do press-ups in the snow, on the ground in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. They woke you up. And they had to do press-ups in the snow, and you had to do a circuit, a PT. You had to pass it every time. You had to do better and better and better. Anyway, one of the prison officers said to me, clean my boots. And I said, no, I'm not going to clean the boots. He said, yeah, you better clean my boots or else. So I told the governor, and apparently he was a good guy. I think he was a Christian, because he sacked him, and nothing never happened to me. But anyway, I did my 3 months, 6 months. Was it 3 months? I did my 3 months there, and when they let me out, I went into a home, a hostel place. I wasn't there long. I didn't like it there. I saw a friend and I went and lived with him, and after a little while, I went to I got in trouble with the police again. I met this guy. He was a criminal, and I got bound up with these criminals, and I got in trouble with the police again, and they took me to. I was smoking cannabis. I was taking cannabis and stealing, and my world was going really bad. You know, I couldn't get out of it, couldn't get away from it. And then I got 12 months postal training. 12 months, 6 months to 2 years, postal training, and it was Guy's Marsh. It was a army barracks, and I was there for 12 months, and when I came out there, they put me into this hostel place, because I never had no fixed abode, and they put me into this hostel place. I was there for a little while, then I left, and I got a room in the house. I got a room in Forest Gate, and I got a job in the hotel as a chef. I was working there as a chef, but I was my money, I was going to the bookie shop and spending and wasting my money in the bookie shop. I had a room in the house. I wasn't paying rent. When I went to get to the room in this house, there's two Nigerian people. I knocked at the door and I said, have you got a room? They said, yeah. And they stood there staring at me for a long time. I couldn't understand why. They said, yeah, we've got a room here. So I got that room. And an evangelist, a friend of mine who he's a Rastafari, who I used to smoke with and everything, his mum was an evangelist. And he told her, he said, Mum, one of my friends had become Christian. No, I found Christian. No, this girl I met this girl in the street one day coming home. And she said to me, do you know that Jesus Christ can help you? I said, what are you talking about? She said, well, he helped me. If you give your life to Christ, you can change your life. So I said, oh yeah. So she said, where do you live? So I told her I lived on the same street. She said, my dad is a deacon in the church. Can we come and see you, take you to church? So I said, yes. I said, okay, come in the morning. This was on a Saturday. So I came. I was in bed and I heard the knock on the door, and the people came down. By the way, the people there, I wasn't paying them any rent. I was gambling my money away, and I wasn't paying them any rent, and they never asked me for any rent. All the time I was there, they never said, "Oh look, you need to pay your rent." They never once asked me. And one day I came home from church. I came home, and I was smoking a lot of weed, and it's done my head in. And I was screaming out. And I called a doctor, emergency doctor, and paid for them to see me. They weren't even no family or nothing like that. They even gave me food to eat. I couldn't understand them. Why they've been so kind to me. My parents was nothing like that. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Brown was nothing like that. Anyway, when they knocked on the door, I heard them say, "No, I don't know nobody with that name." And I thought, why did they say that? I got up, all I had was one set of clothes on, one shirt, one trousers, one jacket, one shoes. So I got up and I went out, and they told me it was in a school hall. So, and I found the school hall, and I heard singing, a lot of singing. So I followed it up. It was up the stairs. I had to go up some iron stairs, and I walked all the way up the iron stairs, and I looked in, and I saw these girls, young girls, and their face was shining. They were singing these hymns, and their face looked like it was shining bright. So I went in, and I heard the sermon. At the end of the sermon, the preacher said, "Would anybody like to come forward and give their life to Jesus?" So I said, I was crying, and I went forward, and they led me into the sinner's prayer, and I prayed the sinner's prayer, and I got saved that day. It changed my life.
Do you remember what was the sinner's prayers?
She said, Say after me. Jesus, save me from my sin. I'm a sinner. I'm a sinner, and I need to be saved. Will you save me from my sins? And that's what I said. I followed what she said, and I felt change. I felt something.
It's as if a burden was lifted off your shoulder. Okay.
Yeah, for the first time, you know, I felt different. Anyway, the same girl that spoke to me, her parents invited me for dinner on Sunday, to come round for dinner. So I went round there, and apparently where I was living, the people were moving, they was going back to Africa, and so they wanted the room, you know. So I said to the girl, I said, I've got to move, I've got nowhere to go because this woman, these people are moving. And they still never took no rent off of me. Not one time did they take rent off of me. And anyway, she said, oh, I know a friend of mine just lives around the corner. And she's got a room. I'll ask her to rent you the room. Anyway, I rented the room. I got the room and I rented. She lived around the corner to where she lived. I didn't have the money for it, but the evangelist, who my friend who I used to smoke weed with, and he's a Rastafari, his parents was Christians, and she was an evangelist, and I told her about it. I said, I haven't got the money. She gave me the money to pay for the rent for the first week. And I paid for the first week and I went there. Anyway, I was in that church. I got baptised. I got baptised and I was going to that church regularly, and I got a job and I was working. And all I owned was the clothes on my back at that time. But then I began to buy a little bit of clothes, shirt, trousers, underwear. I began to see my way through. I was a different person. I had 2 girlfriends at that time, and I gave them up. I didn't want to know. I didn't want to know anything about Jesus. All I wanted to know was Jesus. And I prayed every morning. I got up at 5 o'clock, and I prayed, and I read my Bible for an hour. And we went out on the streets, witnessing to people, knocking on people's doors and witnessing. And everywhere I went, I told people about Jesus. But then, in the church, there was this girl, and I went to school with her, but it was the pastor's daughter. And I wrote a letter asking her if she would go out with me. But I didn't know in the church it's different from outside the church what you do. Anyway, she gave it to her dad, and her dad called me into his home. And when he called me to his home, she was sitting there and I was sitting there. I didn't know what to say. I felt embarrassed. I didn't know what to do. I thought, he said, did you want to speak to me? And I said, no. And I left. Anyway, a few days later, I met the same girl outside the street, and she took a knife to me because she's so unhappy that I never said anything. She took a knife to me, and I thought, what would I get out of? If she's like that. Anyway, I never went back to that church. I left that church, and the woman a friend of mine mother was an evangelist. She told one of the brothers that used to come around to see her to take me to his church. Anyway, he took me to his church, and when I got there, the first day there, this man preached, and it's like the whole building was shaking. The way he preached, it frightened me. He preached with such power. I thought, wow, I better come to this is a church I want to go to. And he said, you don't have to allow in the fellowship, you can come to this church. I started going to that church. Anyway, I used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and pray, read my Bible, and at 12, he said at 12 o'clock he stops and prays. At 12 o'clock in the afternoon, wherever he is. So I used to do that as well. I used to follow them rigidly. I followed the Lord rigidly. I was really with the Lord. All my old friends that I used to have, I never saw them anymore. They said, what are you doing going to church? I said, I've got a new life now. They said, don't you want to smoke some ganja? I said, no, I don't want to smoke any ganja. I used to smoke 40 cigarettes a day, and I stopped smoking just like that when I met the Lord. I stopped smoking for 40 cigarettes a day. I stopped smoking ganja. I started swearing. I stopped committing fornication. I stopped everything. I dropped it. I was a new person. Anyway, one day I went to church, and all of a sudden something got hold of me, and I started dancing. I danced like David danced. I started dancing and dancing and dancing. I couldn't stop myself. It got hold of me, and I was dancing in the spirit. Anyway, and the power of God came down, and that man had some power in him, because when he used to preach, the power of God used to come down, and it was powerful preaching. And I loved it. I really got enjoy with it. And then one day, he took us we were going to a meeting in Royal Albert Hall. This man from America, there's that man there behind you there, him and his wife, Marcelo. He's my spiritual father. He was an evangelist, he's a prophet. So we got to see him. We went there, and he said, there's a big hall, Royal Albert Hall, there's a big hall, big balcony, and thousands of people were there. And he said, right, people with tobacco, throw down their cigarettes, throw it to the front, and people pick it up and throw it on the platform. And people were throwing their cigarettes down and throwing their tobacco down. I couldn't believe it. I said, how come they're doing that? Why are they just doing that? The man had power, Marshall. I got in touch with him. I got really attached to him. And he used to have meetings in America, and one day he said I was involved with him. I was subscribed to him, his ministry. And one day he sent me a ticket to go to Palm Springs, California. You pay for the airfare, the hotel, the meal, and I went to California. The first time I ever left the country, and I went there, and it was fantastic. And I started going there. I used to go there every year. Every year, every meeting he had, I went there. He never paid for it all the time. I paid for a lot of it, but he paid for a lot of it as well. Anyway, one day I was in the choir. They put me in the choir, and one day he said to me, I said, one day I said, Now, I wrote another letter. I really don't know how to do it, but this one of the girls in the choir, I wanted to see her, so I wrote a letter to her. She gave it to her mother, and she gave it to the pastor. The pastor called me around his house one night, and I said, he said, I want to see you, son. So I went around his house. He said to me, have you got a house to put her? House? What's he on about? Well, I've got a house to put her. I said, no, I haven't got a house to put her. He said, this is the lust, son. This is the lust of the flesh. So I felt so low. I thought, my God, I'm lusting after the flesh. He thinks I'm lusting after the flesh. So anyway, I left there about 10:30 at night, and I went home. And then I threw everything out of my wardrobe, and I went in my wardrobe. I began to repent. I said, Lord, forgive me for lusting after the flesh. I was there for hours crying, asking God to forgive me. So if I do it again, give me another chance. Anyway, it was 5 o'clock in the morning now, time I was to go to work. And the light was shining through the crack. And I said, I'm not going to let you go. I said what Jacob said. I said what Jacob said to the Lord. I'm not going to let you go unless you bless me. And then when I said that, like the heavens opened and something came down inside of me. I knew that something had happened to me. Anyway, and the voice said to me, when you go to work, they're going to let you go, but don't worry about it. And when I went to work, the governor said to me, sorry, but you're the last one here, and you're the first to go. We have to let you go. So it was just as he said. Anyway, when I went to church the next day, it was testimony time. And I got up to give a testimony. And as I was speaking, I got all my words mixed up together, muddled up together. And the pastor's wife said to me, son, if you talk like that again, I'm going to take you out of the choir. So I didn't understand what was going on. So then the next time it happened again. And I said, sorry. I said, I'm trying to explain what happened when I went into the wardrobe. And she said, give me your gown. You're coming out of the choir. She threw me out of the choir. And when she threw me out of the choir, I was in the congregation. I felt like I'd been thrown out of heaven to hell. Because everything was different. I saw flies. I was reading the Bible and all the words were running up and down. I didn't know what was happening to me. Anyway, what happened was I eventually left the church. I left the church. And I went round to the pastor's house one night, and I knocked on his door about 12 o'clock, about 10:30 at night, and I held out my hand like this, like I had a spiritual sword in my hand. It was he came in his dressing gown, and he called police and ambulance. The police came and the ambulance came, and they put me in the straitjacket. and took me to a mental hospital. And I was in the mental hospital. And he came and saw me in the mental hospital. They gave me electric shock treatment, electricity in my brain, ECT, electric shock treatment in my brain, because I wouldn't eat and I wouldn't talk. Anyway, he came to see me, the pastor, and he said to me, "Did you commit adultery with such and such a sister?" I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "No." That's what he asked me, if I committed adultery. Because he must think, why I'm in there is because I committed adultery. You know, I don't know what got into their brain. Anyway, when I came out, I never went back to the church. And cut a long story short, I met my wife. I met this girl, and we got married. I only knew her for about 3 months, and we got married. She was a white girl, an English girl. We got married. I was married for about 7 years. I went back into my old state again. I started smoking weed, started gambling. Then I got divorced. Cut a long story short, we got divorced. She couldn't have children because her family tubes were cancerous and had them cut away, so she couldn't have children. But I left this bit out. I had children before I met her. I had 2 children before I met her. But I don't know where they are. I've never seen them. I don't know where they are. I don't know them at all. I don't know them at all. My life has been so up and down that I lost contact. Anyway.
Is it with the same person? Both kids or different?
No, 2 different.
Boys, girls?
I've got one twins, twin boys, and a girl. And I've got one boy, well, 4 altogether.
So you got 2 boys, which is twins.
Yeah, from one girl and a girl from one woman.
And girl. Then you have another, and then you have a
boy,
daughter, and then okay, so you've got 3 sons and 1 daughter.
Yeah, but one of the sons is from a different girl.
Yeah, I get that bit.
Yeah.
And you don't know the names.
I don't know the names. I don't know where they are. I don't know. I've got a picture of one. That's all I've got. A picture of the boy. She was from Barbados. She was a nurse, and she took him to Barbados. So I don't know, and I haven't seen her since. And the girl with the twins and the other girl, well, she was a party girl. When she had the girl, first girl, I went round to her parents' house to see the girl, and her parents wouldn't let me go near her because their parents wanted to adopt the girl. And didn't want me have to have nothing to do with her. So I've got kids, but I don't know nothing about them, you know. Anyway, then I was, where was I? I went to psychiatric hospital. Yeah, I went to psychiatric hospital. Forgot where I am now. Where am I?
Talking about your wife.
Oh yeah, my wife. We married. I only met her. I was only with her for 3 months, and we got married. And but she couldn't have kids because her fallopian tubes were blocked. Then
You got divorced.
I got divorced. I went back to the church. Oh yeah, I went back to the church. And where I was living, I got broken into 3 times. I was living in, where I was living in a 3-story flat. And I was going to America. I started going to America 3 times. Just 3 times a year I was going to 2-3 times a year I was going to America to this man. And this man's like my father and my mother. If any problems I had, I should write to him and he'd just pray and I'll get the answer. His prayers were so powerful. One time I was in the flat and I was lying down flat praying, and all of a sudden the Spirit got hold of me, picked me up, told me what to put on. I put on the clothes that I was supposed to put on, and I went out. I went to the railway station, and there was no trains. There was a bus. So, I ran back into the flat, and I got this coat. This coat that I got from a second-hand shop. When I put it on, everybody was around me. Everybody wanted to know me, where I got it from, wanted to buy it from me. I didn't know what it was. Something about this coat that I bought in a second-hand shop. I don't know what it was. But anyway, God told me to give it away. So I gave it to the man in the train station. I got on the bus. I got to parking railway station, and there's all ticket collectors there. I ain't got a ticket, but when I left work, I had £60 in my pocket and some change. Anyway, so I saw this little boy. I gave him the £60, said, go. I don't know why. I gave it to him and he went. And this little Indian guy took it from him. I took it back from the little Indian guy. And I got the £60. They said to me, where's your ticket? I said, there wasn't no ticket office there. There's just a train. There's just a bus. So that's why I just jumped on the bus. Anyway, they took me to the police. Railway police. They took me into the railway police. The railway police took the man to put me in a prison cell. And when I was in this prison cell, God came to me, and I shouted out. The Holy Spirit shouted from me, I am the Lord thy God. Now, it was so loud that the whole place shook. And then I kept on shouting that out for a long time. Then two psychiatrists came in to the cell. And they said, what can I do for you? I said, I need medication. They sat down, they're shaking. They said, I said, I need medication. They said, will you be willing to go to Basildon Hospital? Psychiatric hospital. I said, yes, okay. So they left. And then as two young policemen came to escort me to the car. And as I came out, there's a police officer with all medals on his chest, and I saluted him, and he saluted me back. I couldn't understand it. And then they put me in the car, and they drove me to the hospital. Well, I was in the hospital for a little while. Then I got discharged. No, I was in the foyer, and then they called me into the office, into the medical centre, and this woman said to me, "Mr. Brown, we don't know what medication to give you." So she started telling me about medication, different medication, and I said, "That one, stop. Controls will of the mind." She went on again, talking about it, and I said, "Stop. Controls the will of the flesh." I don't know how she knew I would know that. How she knew I would know that, I don't know. But she knew, and she knew I knew.
The medication?
Yeah.
The thing is, when you're taking medication for sometimes, you're used to the name of your medications.
No, I didn't know the name, never heard of it before.
Yeah, you might not, sometimes you don't know the name, but you know how they look. As someone who works with people from mental health.
She never showed me. You work with mental health?
Yes, I've worked with you before.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, but I didn't know what she said. I've never heard of it before. But I had a word of knowledge. You know? God just gave me a word of knowledge at that time. And I knew that that was the one I went, that's the medication I wanted them to give me. And they gave me that medication. And then they discharged me. I went home. And I got a job. At McDonald's. No. Where I was living. Where I was living in the flat I was living in, I didn't know. I was working on the railway at the time. It was a shanter. My wife wasn't paying the rent. I got into £3,000 worth of rent arrears. They were ready to throw me out on the street. But I got a job. I got a job and I started working. And I paid it off. In about a year I paid off the £3,000, I paid it off. And then I had my right leg kept giving way. I was walking the street and I kept on falling down. And people had to pick me up and so I went to the doctors. And the doctor x-rayed me and they couldn't find nothing. No, I had an MRI scan. They said the cord around my spine was twisting together, caused my right leg to give way. So I had an operation. And that's why I'm like this now. So I had an operation on my spine. And I couldn't live where I was living because it was upstairs and I couldn't climb stairs. So the day before, when I was in hospital, I prayed. And I said, "Lord, I need somewhere to go." And the day before they're going to take me and put me in my stuff in storage, they got me this place. And I said, "Come here," and I've been here. I come here, and I did go to America once when I was like this. I went to I don't know why I went. I could have fallen over and been in a plane or anything, but I didn't. But so I don't know what was I saying.
Okay, Stanley, thanks for taking the time out to tell us a little bit about yourself. It was quite an eye-opening experience. And I'd like to say I'm sorry for all that you went through. But at the end of it, you came out a stronger person than what you were. Most people been through what you've been through didn't come out on the other side. So I just want to say you're stronger than you think you are. And just keep having the faith and just keep going forward. And I appreciate the time that you spent. Okay, so